The autumn rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Celestial Heights, Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurant. Gabriel Harrison sat at his usual corner table, the one with the perfect view of the entire dining room, pretending to read financial reports while his dark eyes followed one person, Amelia. How Rose moved through the restaurant like poetry in motion. At 26, she had perfected the art of balancing multiple plates while maintaining grace under pressure. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her black uniform couldn't hide the natural elegance in her movements. She treated every customer with the same warm smile. Whether they ordered the cheapest appetizer or the most expensive wine, Gabriel had been coming here. Every Thursday for 3 months, always requesting table 12. Always ordering the same meal, always alone. What started as a business dinner location had become something entirely different the night he first saw Amelia handle a difficult customer with such patience and dignity that it left him speechless. Your usual. Mr. Harrison. Amelia approached his table with her notepad ready, though she already knew his order by heart. Please, Gabriel replied, his voice softer than usual. And how has your evening been? Amelia paused, surprised by the personal question. In 3 months, their interactions had never gone beyond polite service. Busy, but good. The rain always brings more people inside. Gabriel studied her face, noticing the slight shadows under her green eyes. The way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other as if her feet hurt. You work here full-time? 6 days a week, Amelia answered honestly, then caught herself sharing too much with a customer. I should get your order started. As she walked away, Gabriel watched her stop at the service station to massage her lower back when she thought no one was looking. He knew nothing about her life beyond these Thursday evenings. But something about Amelia Rose had captured his attention in a way no woman ever had. The artist struggled 3 blocks away in a tiny studio apartment above a bakery. Amelia's real world waited. She climbed the narrow stairs at midnight, her feet aching from another double shift. The smell of fresh bread from below usually comforted her. But tonight, she was too exhausted to notice. Grandmother. I'm home, she called softly, not wanting to wake Helen if she was sleeping. In here, sweetheart, came the gentle voice from the bedroom. Amelia found her 72-year-old grandmother sitting up in bed, working on a crossword puzzle by lamplight. Helen Rose had raised Amelia since she was 8, after her parents died in a car accident. Now, with Helen's arthritis worsening and medical bills mounting, Amelia worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. How was your day, dear? Helen asked, patting the bed beside her. Amelia sat down carefully, trying not to disturb the medications lined up on the nightstand. Same as always. But I sold 2 small paintings at the coffee shop this week. Helen's eyes lit up. That's wonderful. You're so talented, Amelia. Your parents would be so proud. Amelia smiled, but her heart ached. The paintings had sold for $50 each, barely enough to cover Helen's prescription costs for the week. Her dream of becoming a full-time artist seemed more impossible each day. After Helen fell asleep, Amelia sat at her easel in the tiny living room, trying to paint by the light of a single lamp. The canvas showed a city street scene, people rushing past without noticing the beauty around them. She painted when she could stay awake. It's usually just an hour or 2 before exhaustion took over. Tonight, though, she found herself painting dark eyes. It's the kind that seemed to see right through to her soul. She didn't realize she was painting Gabriel Harrison until she stepped back and saw his face looking back at her from the canvas, an unexpected connection the following Thursday. Gabriel arrived at Celestial Heights earlier than usual. He had spent the week thinking about Amelia, wondering about her life beyond the restaurant. When she approached his table, he noticed she looked even more tired than the week before. The usual? She asked, but her smile seemed forced. Actually, Gabriel said, closing his laptop, could you recommend something different? I trust your taste. Amelia blinked in surprise. Oh, well, the chef's special tonight is sea bass with lemon herbs. It's really beautiful. Sounds perfect. And what would you order if you were dining here? The question caught her off guard. Me? I don't really dine at places like this. Gabriel leaned back in his chair. Hypothetically. Despite herself, Amelia found his genuine interest disarming. Honestly, the butternut squash soup. It reminds me of something my grandmother used to make. Then bring 2 bowls of soup in the sea bass. I hate eating alone. Amelia stared at him. Mr. Harrison, I can't eat with a customer. I could lose my job. When do you take your break? I don't really take breaks during the dinner rush. Gabriel pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Within minutes, the restaurant manager appeared at their table. Mr. Harrison, how can I help you? I'd like to invite Ms. Rose to join me for a quick meal during her break. I assume that can be arranged? The manager looked between Gabriel and Amelia, clearly recognizing that Gabriel was someone whose requests weren't denied. Of course, sir. Amelia, take 30 minutes. A glimpse behind the walls, sitting across from Gabriel Harrison, felt surreal. Amelia had served him dozens of times, but now, sharing soup and conversation, she saw a different man. He asked about her life with genuine curiosity, and she found herself opening up despite her usual caution. I studied art in college, she admitted, but life had other plans. What kind of art? Paintings, mostly. Urban scenes, people, emotions, nothing fancy. Gabriel's eyes lit up with interest. I'd love to see your work sometime. Amelia laughed softly. They're not gallery quality. Just something I do in my spare time. Art isn't about galleries. It's about passion, about seeing the world differently. The way he said it made Amelia look at him more carefully. You sound like you know something about art. Gabriel hesitated. I wanted to be an architect once. Before I inherited the family business, what stopped you? Responsibility. Expectations. The same things that stop most people from following their dreams. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both recognizing something familiar in the other's story. Mr. Harrison, Amelia began. Gabrielle, please, Gabriel, why are you being so kind to me? You don't know anything about me? Gabriel set down his spoon and looked directly into her eyes. I know you work 6 days a week and still treat every customer with respect. I know you have paint under your fingernails, which means you create beauty even when you're exhausted. I know you're taking care of someone you love because I see how you count every tip. How you save leftover bread from the kitchen. Amelia felt her cheeks burn. She didn't realize he'd been watching her so closely. I know, Gabriel continued quietly, that you're the first person in a very long time who's made me want to be honest about who I really am. The moment everything changed, the rest of Amelia's shift passed in a blur. Gabriel's words echoed in her mind as she served other tables. She found herself glancing at table 12 whenever she could. He remained until closing, working on his laptop, but looking up every time she passed by, as the restaurant emptied. Gabriel approached the service station where Amelia was counting her tips. Can I drive you home? It's late. I take the subway. It's fine. Please? I'd feel better knowing you got home safely. Against her better judgment, Amelia accepted. Gabriel's car was a sleek black sedan with a driver, more luxury than she'd ever experienced. During the quiet ride to her neighborhood, she gave him directions while stealing glances at his profile in the city lights. This is it, she said, as they stopped in front of the bakery. Gabriel looked at the modest building. Understanding more about her life in that moment, Amelia, I meant what I said about seeing your art. Gabriel, you're being kind, but we live in completely different worlds. He turned to face her. Maybe that's exactly why we need each other. The words hung between them as Amelia got out of the car. She watched the sedan disappear into the night, her heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with her exhausting shift. Upstairs. As she checked on Helen and prepared for bed, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that her carefully controlled life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. Gabriel Harrison wasn't just another customer anymore. He was becoming something much more dangerous. Something that could either save her or destroy everything she'd worked so hard to protect as she lay in bed. Listening to the city sounds outside her window, Amelia didn't know that 3 stories below, Gabriel's car was still parked across the street. He sat in the back seat, looking up at her darkened window, wondering how a chance encounter in a restaurant had made him question everything he thought he wanted from life. For the first time in years, Gabriel Harrison was thinking about someone other than himself. And for the first time in her adult life, Amelia Rose was allowing herself to hope for something beyond mere survival. Neither of them slept well that night, both sensing that Thursday evenings at Celestial Heights would never be the same again. The following week brought an unexpected phone call that changed everything. Amelia was preparing for another Thursday shift when her phone rang with an unknown number. Miss Rose? This is Patricia Wells from Harrison Enterprises. Mr. Harrison would like to schedule a meeting with you regarding a potential business opportunity. Amelia nearly dropped the phone. I'm sorry. There must be some mistake. No mistake. Are you available tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock? Mr. Harrison has a proposition he'd like to discuss. After hanging up, Amelia stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. What could Gabriel possibly want to discuss? The rational part of her mind screamed warnings. But her heart raced with curiosity. Helen noticed her granddaughter's distraction immediately. You seem different today, dear. Something good happen? I'm not sure, grandmother. Someone wants to meet with me about my art. Helen's face brightened. How wonderful, you see. I always said your talent would be recognized. The Harrison Building the next afternoon? Amelia stood before the gleaming 40-story Harrison Building in downtown Manhattan. She wore her only professional outfit, a navy dress she'd bought for college interviews years ago. The lobby was all marble and glass, filled with people in expensive suits who belonged in this world in ways she never would. Gabriel's office occupied the entire top floor. With panoramic views of the city, when his assistant let her in, she found him standing by the windows, looking out at the urban landscape below. Amelia, he said, turning with a genuine smile. Thank you for coming. Gabriel, I have to admit I'm confused about why I'm here. He gestured to a seating area away from his imposing desk. Choosing to sit across from her in comfortable chairs rather than maintain the formal distance of his office setup. I have a confession, Gabriel began. I did some research after our conversation last week. I found some of your paintings online from a group show you participated in 2 years ago. Amelia felt heat rise to her cheeks. Those were just student pieces. They were extraordinary. The way you capture emotion in everyday moments, it's exactly what I've been looking for. Gabriel reached for a folder on the coffee table between them. I'm planning a new project, a luxury apartment complex designed to feel like home rather than just an investment. I want art throughout the building that speaks to real life, real emotions. I want to commission you to create 12 large pieces for the lobby and common areas. Amelia stared at the contract he placed before her, her eyes widening at the compensation figure. It was more money than she made in an entire year at the restaurant. Gabriel, this is generous, but I don't understand. You could commission established artists, people with gallery representation. Gabriel leaned forward. I don't want established artists. I want your vision. Your honesty. The way you see beauty and struggle, hope and hardship. What if I disappoint you? What if the paintings aren't what you expected? Then we'll figure it out together. But Amelia, I have a feeling you're going to surprise yourself with what you can create when you have the time and resources to focus entirely on your art. A life-changing decision that evening. Amelia sat at Helen's bedside, the contract spread across the blanket between them. Her grandmother read every word carefully, her eyes sharp, despite her physical frailty. This is a remarkable opportunity, sweetheart. It feels too good to be true. Why would someone like Gabriel Harrison take such a risk on someone like me? Helen reached for Amelia's hand. Because he sees what I see. Talent, dedication, and a heart that pours itself into everything you create. But what if it doesn't work out? What if I leave the restaurant and then this falls through? We need the steady income, Amelia, Helen said gently. I've watched you paint by lamplight after working 14-hour days. I've seen you sacrifice your dreams to take care of me. If this man believes in you enough to offer this chance, maybe it's time you believed in yourself. The next morning, Amelia called Patricia Wells and accepted the commission. First days of freedom leaving. The restaurant felt like stepping into an alternate reality. For the first time in years, Amelia's days belonged to her. Gabriel had arranged for a studio space in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn. With north-facing windows that filled the room with perfect light, when she arrived for her first day, she found the space equipped with professional easels, quality canvases, and more art supplies than she'd owned in her entire life. A note from Gabriel sat on the main easel. Paint your truth. The rest will follow. Amelia spent the first week just getting used to having. No rushing between shifts, no falling asleep at her easel from exhaustion. She could paint for hours, lose herself in the work, and emerge to find the sun setting over the city skyline. Gabriel visited the studio twice during those first weeks, always calling ahead, always respectful of her creative process. He would study her work with genuine appreciation, offering thoughtful comments that showed he truly understood what she was trying to express. "This one," he said, standing before a painting of a subway platform at rush hour, "captures something I feel every day, but never knew how to articulate." "What do you see?" Amelia asked, curious about his perspective. "Isolation in the middle of chaos. People surrounded by others, but completely alone. It's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time." Their relationship began to shift during these studio visits. They talked about art, about dreams deferred, about the weight of responsibility. Gabriel shared stories about his childhood, growing up with wealth, but feeling emotionally impoverished. Amelia talked about losing her parents, about the fear of failing Helen, about painting as her only escape. An unexpected invitation one evening in late November. Gabriel made an unexpected request. "There's a gallery opening tomorrow night. New contemporary artists, unknown talents being showcased. Would you come with me?" Amelia hesitated. "Gabriel, I don't have anything appropriate to wear to something like that. What if I told you I'd already taken care of that?" The next afternoon, a delivery arrived at her apartment. Inside an elegant box was a stunning emerald green dress, simple but elegant, with shoes and accessories to match. A note read, "The color of your eyes when you talk about painting." The gallery opening was unlike anything Amelia had ever experienced. The space buzzed with art collectors, critics, and society figures. Gabriel moved through the crowd with ease, introducing Amelia as a brilliant artist rather than explaining how they'd met. Watching him in his natural environment, Amelia saw a different side of Gabriel. He was confident, respected, clearly at home in this world of wealth and influence. But throughout the evening, his attention remained focused on her, ensuring she felt comfortable, included in conversations. Valued for her insights about the artwork. "You're different tonight," Amelia observed as they stood before an abstract sculpture. "How so?" "More yourself, I think. Less guarded." Gabriel considered this. "Maybe because I'm with someone who sees me as Gabriel rather than as Harrison Enterprises." The first kiss as the evening wound down. Gabriel's driver took them on a detour through Central Park. The city lights reflected off the lake, creating a magical atmosphere that felt removed from reality. "Thank you for tonight," Amelia said. "I felt like I belonged in that world, at least for a few hours." Perspective, your talent, it brings something authentic to these spaces that's usually missing. They walked along the water's edge, their conversation flowing naturally from art to dreams to fears. When Gabriel stopped walking and turned to face her, Amelia felt her heart skip. "Amelia, I need to tell you something." "What?" "These past few weeks working with you, watching you create, it's changed something in me. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." Before she could respond, Gabriel cupped her face gently in his hands. "May I?" Amelia's answer was to close her eyes and lean toward him. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, full of all the emotion that had been building between them. When they broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "Gabriel, this complicates things." I know. But Amelia, I've spent my entire adult life making safe choices, practical decisions. For once, I want to follow my heart." Helen's approval back at the apartment. Amelia found Helen waiting up despite the late hour. "How was your evening, dear?" Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, still glowing from the kiss. "It was perfect, grandmother." "Too perfect, maybe?" "Tell me about this young man. What's he really like?" Amelia described Gabriel honestly, his kindness, his genuine interest in her art, his vulnerability when he talked about his own abandoned dreams. Helen listened carefully, asking perceptive questions. "Do you trust him?" Helen asked finally. "I think so. But it scares me how quickly this is happening. Sometimes the heart knows things the mind hasn't figured out yet," Helen said wisely. "But be careful, sweetheart. Men with that kind of power and money, sometimes they're used to getting what they want without considering the cost to others. He's not like that, grandmother. I hope you're right. But promise me, you'll keep your eyes open. Don't let love blind you to red flags." Over the following weeks, Gabriel and Amelia's relationship deepened. He would bring coffee to her studio, sometimes staying to watch her work. She would cook simple dinners in her tiny kitchen, introducing him to a world where contentment came from small pleasures rather than grand gestures. Gabriel began opening up about his family, his loneliness despite his success, his fear that people only valued him for his wealth. Amelia shared her dreams beyond the commission. Her hope to one day have her own gallery show. Her worry about Helen's declining health. "I've been thinking," Gabriel said one evening as they walked through her neighborhood after dinner. "What if you didn't have to worry about money anymore? What if you could focus entirely on your art?" "What do you mean?" "I want to take care of you, Amelia. Set up a trust. Ensure you never have to choose between creating and surviving." Amelia stopped walking. "Gabriel, that's incredibly generous, but I can't accept something like that." "Why not?" "Because it would change everything between us. I need to know that what we have is real, not based on what you can provide for me." Gabriel pulled her close. "What we have is real. The offer has nothing to do with us personally." But even as he said it, Amelia sensed the blurred lines between his care for her and his desire to solve her problems with money. It was the first shadow to cross their otherwise perfect beginning. The commission progresses by December. Amelia had completed 8 of the 12 commissioned pieces. Each painting told a story of urban life, but with hope woven through hardship, beauty found in unexpected places. Gabriel's building project was progressing on schedule, and the space where her paintings would hang was taking shape. "The board of directors wants to see the work," Gabriel told her during one of his studio visits. "It's just a formality, but they need to approve the art before it's installed." "Are you nervous?" Amelia asked. "About their opinion?" "No, about you meeting them." "Absolutely." "Why?" Gabriel hesitated. "Because they're going to judge you based on their expectations of what a successful artist should look like. And because some of them might have opinions about my personal involvement in this project." It was the first time Gabriel had acknowledged that their relationship might be viewed as problematic by others in his business world. Amelia felt a chill of apprehension about what that might mean for their future. As winter settled over the city, both Gabriel and Amelia were learning that love, no matter how genuine, couldn't exist in a vacuum. The realities of their different worlds were beginning to press against the protective bubble they'd created around their relationship. The question was whether their connection was strong enough to survive the scrutiny and challenges that lay ahead. The Harrison Enterprises boardroom intimidated Amelia from the moment she entered. 12 people in expensive suits sat around a mahogany table that probably cost more than her annual rent. Gabriel had warned her this was a formality, but the atmosphere felt more like a trial. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gabriel began, "I'd like you to meet Amelia Rose, the artist behind our residential project's commissioned works." The paintings were displayed around the room on professional easels. Amelia watched as the board members studied her work with expressions ranging from polite interest to barely concealed skepticism. "Miss Rose," said Margaret Whitfield, the most senior board member, "your work is certainly emotional, but we're concerned about market appeal. Our target demographic expects more traditional aesthetics." "I understand your concern," Amelia replied carefully, "but these pieces are designed to create connection. They show the human side of city living, which I believe will resonate with people looking for home, not just an address." Board member James Porter leaned back in his chair. "Gabriel, what exactly are Miss Rose's credentials?" "Her gallery representations?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Her credentials are evident in the work before you. Art should be judged on its merit, not on politics or connections." "Of course," Porter said smoothly, "but our investors expect certain standards. Perhaps we should consider supplementing Miss Rose's work with pieces from more established artists." Amelia felt heat rise in her cheeks. She was being discussed as if she weren't in the room. Her work deemed insufficient by people who probably bought art based on investment potential rather than emotional impact. "The commission stands as originally planned," Gabriel said firmly. "Miss Rose's work is exactly what this project needs." After an uncomfortable hour, the board approved the project with obvious reluctance. As they left the building, Amelia felt Gabriel's tension in the silence between them. "I'm sorry about that," he said finally. "They're not usually so condescending. Dismissive. I was going to say narrow-minded, but yes." Amelia stopped walking and faced him. "Gabriel, what happens when they realize we're involved personally? Are you going to have to choose between me and your business?" "It won't come to that." But his hesitation before answering told Amelia everything she needed to know. Diana's warning, though, next week, brought an unexpected visitor to Amelia's studio. A sophisticated woman in her early 30s appeared at the door. Her designer coat and confident demeanor immediately marking her as someone from Gabriel's world. "You must be Amelia Rose. I'm Diana Harrison, Gabriel's sister." Amelia invited her in, offering coffee while studying Diana's face for resemblance to Gabriel. The same dark eyes, but where Gabriel's held warmth, Diana's were calculating. "I wanted to meet the woman who's captured my brother's attention so completely," Diana said. Walking around the studio and examining the paintings with a critical eye, "Gabriel's mentioned you, but not often. That's typical. Gabriel prefers to compartmentalize his life." Diana stopped in front of Amelia's latest piece, a painting of a woman at a bus stop in the rain. "You're talented. I can see why he's fascinated. Thank you." Diana turned to face her directly. "Amelia, I like you already. You seem genuine, which is rare in Gabriel's world. That's why I need to warn you about something." Amelia set down her coffee cup. "What kind of warning?" "My brother has a pattern. He finds women who need rescuing, usually artistic types with financial struggles. He becomes their savior, falls in love with the idea of being needed. But when the novelty wears off, he moves on. That's not what this is, isn't it? Beautiful struggling artist, sick grandmother, working multiple jobs to survive. And then Gabriel appears with a life-changing commission and romantic attention." Amelia felt as if she'd been slapped. "You don't know anything about our relationship." Diana pulled out her phone and showed Amelia a series of photos. Rachel Martinez, contemporary dancer. Gabriel financed her dance company in 2018. They dated for 8 months. She swiped to the next photo. Christina Vale, photographer. Gabriel funded her first solo exhibition in 2019. 6-month relationship. Another swipe. Jennifer Park, sculptor. Gabriel bought her a studio space and commissioned 3 pieces in 2020. 4 months together. Amelia stared at the photos, her heart sinking with each image. All the women were brunette, artistic, beautiful, in an accessible rather than glamorous way. What happened to them? When Gabriel lost interest, the funding disappeared. Rachel's company folded within a year. Christina had to sell her equipment. Jennifer's still struggling to rebuild her career. Why are you telling me this? Diana put her phone away. Because unlike the others, you're different. Gabriel talks about you constantly. He's more invested this time, which means you have more to lose. Confronting Gabriel that evening, Amelia waited in Gabriel's penthouse apartment, the luxury around her suddenly feeling like a cage. When he arrived home from work, his face lit up at seeing her. "This is a wonderful surprise. I thought you were working late tonight. Gabrielle, we need to talk." He sensed her serious tone immediately. "What's wrong?" Amelia told him about Diana's visit, about the photos and stories of his previous relationships. Gabriel's expression grew darker with each detail. Diana had no right to interfere, so it's true? All of it? Gabriel sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. "The facts are true, but not the context she's implying." "Then explain the context to me." "Yes, I've dated women who were artists. Yes, I helped them financially. But it wasn't some calculated pattern, Amelia. I was genuinely trying to help people I cared about. And when you stopped caring about them?" Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. "I handled things poorly. I should have separated the personal from the professional better. Gabriel, how do I know I'm not just the latest in a series? How do I know that when you get bored with me, my commission won't disappear too?" Gabriel stood up and moved toward her, but Amelia stepped back. "Because this is different," he said. "What I feel for you is different." That's what you've probably told them too. Gabriel's face showed real pain. "Amelia, I understand why you're scared. But I need you to trust what we have together, not what Diana's projecting from my past mistakes. I want to trust you. But Gabriel, the power imbalance between us is enormous. If this relationship ends badly, I lose everything. You just move on to your next project." Helen's crisis, the argument was interrupted by Amelia's phone ringing. Helen's doctor was calling to say that her grandmother had been rushed to the hospital with severe complications from her arthritis. Medication Gabriel drove Amelia to the hospital, where they found Helen conscious, but clearly in significant pain. The doctor explained that her kidneys were struggling to process her medications. and she would need expensive treatment not covered by her basic insurance. How much? Amelia asked, though she already knew the answer would be devastating. The treatment course will run approximately $15,000. Without it, her condition will continue to deteriorate. Amelia felt the walls closing in. Even with the commission money, she didn't have that kind of funds readily available. Helen needed treatment immediately. Gabriel stepped forward. Doctor, please proceed with whatever treatment Mrs. Rose needs. I'll handle the financial arrangements. Gabriel, no, Amelia said quickly. I can't let you do that. Amelia, this is your grandmother's health. We can sort out the details later, but Amelia heard Diana's warnings echoing in her mind. Was this how it started with the others? A crisis that required Gabriel's financial intervention, creating a debt that made it impossible to leave? I need some air, Amelia said, rushing out of the hospital room. Gabriel followed her to the outdoor courtyard. Talk to me. What's going through your head? This is exactly what Diana was warning me about. You swooping in to solve my problems with money, making me dependent on you? This is your grandmother's life, Amelia. This isn't about control or dependence, isn't it? Gabriel, if I let you pay for this, I'll owe you everything. My art, my relationship with you, my independence, it all becomes tied to your generosity. Gabriel grabbed her hands. What if I told you I'd pay for the treatment regardless of what happens between us? What if I made that legally binding? Then I'd wonder why someone would make such an extreme gesture, unless they were either completely in love or completely manipulative. Which do you think I am? Amelia looked into his eyes, seeing genuine emotion, but also the confidence of someone accustomed to using money to solve problems. I think you're a good man who's used to getting what he wants. And I think I'm a woman who's terrified of losing her independence. The impossible choice back in Helen's room. Amelia sat beside her grandmother's bed while Gabriel made arrangements with the hospital billing department. Helen, despite her weakened state, was sharp enough to read the tension between them. What's troubling you, sweetheart? Amelia explained the situation, the treatment costs, Gabriel's offer to pay her fears about accepting. Helen listened carefully before speaking. Amelia, I've lived long enough to know that pride can be as dangerous as dependence. If this young man wants to help, and you believe his motives are sincere, let him help. But grandmother, what if Diana's right? What if I'm just another project for him? Then you'll deal with that when it happens. But don't let fear of what might be prevent you from accepting help you need right now. Helen squeezed Amelia's hand weakly. I've watched you sacrifice your dreams to take care of me for years. If Gabriel can give you the security to pursue your art without worry, maybe that's worth the risk. The decision later that night, in Gabriel's car outside the hospital, Amelia made her choice. I'll accept your help with Helen's treatment, but with conditions. What conditions? First, we formalize everything legally. You pay for the treatment, regardless of our personal relationship. Second, the art commission continues on its original terms, no matter what happens between us. Third, we take a break from the romantic aspect of our relationship until Helen is stable and the commission is complete. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. You're protecting yourself. I'm protecting both of us. Gabriel, I care about you more than I've ever cared about anyone. But I need to know that what we have can exist independently of what you can provide for me. And if I agree to these conditions, then maybe we can find our way back to each other on equal footing. Gabriel nodded slowly. I'll have my lawyer draw up the agreements tomorrow. As they parted that night, both Gabriel and Amelia felt the weight of choices made and paths chosen. Love had brought them together, but the realities of their different worlds were forcing them to examine whether their feelings could survive the complications of money, power, and past patterns. Helen's treatment began the next day. Amelia threw herself into completing the final pieces of her commission, painting with an intensity born of emotional upheaval. Gabriel honored their agreement, maintaining professional distance while ensuring Helen received the best care possible. But in the quiet moments, when Amelia caught Gabriel watching her work, when their hands accidentally touched while reviewing contracts, when they shared worried glances over Helen's bedside, they both wondered if they were protecting their relationship or destroying it. The final painting in the commission was a portrait of a couple on a city street, reaching toward each other across a crowded intersection. Their fingertips almost touched, but the distance between them seemed both impossibly small and infinitely vast. The installation 3 weeks later, Amelia stood in the lobby of Gabriel's completed residential building, watching workers hang her 12 paintings. The space was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble floors, and her art creating islands of warmth and humanity throughout the elegant environment. Gabriel maintained professional distance during the installation, speaking with her only about placement and lighting. But Amelia caught him standing before the final painting, the reaching couple, for long minutes, his expression unreadable. "The residents are going to love these," said the building manager, a woman named Patricia, who had overseen the project's final details. "They tell such powerful stories." The building's grand opening was scheduled for the following week. Gabriel would present the project to investors, residents, and the press. Amelia's art would be seen by hundreds of people, potentially launching her career in ways she had never imagined possible. But as she stood in that beautiful lobby, surrounded by the fruits of months of work, Amelia felt hollow. Success without Gabriel to share it felt incomplete. Helen's treatment had been successful. The new medication regimen was working, and her doctor was optimistic about her long-term prognosis. Amelia spent her evenings reading to her grandmother, both of them carefully avoiding the subject of Gabriel. "You're miserable," dear Helen observed one evening, as Amelia half-heartedly turned pages in a magazine. "I'm fine, grandmother. You're successful, financially secured for the first time in years, and completely unhappy. That tells me everything I need to know." Amelia set down the magazine. "I made the right choice. I protected myself. Did you? Or did you let fear make your decisions for you?" Before Amelia could respond, Helen continued, "I've been thinking about your parents a lot lately. Your father was cautious, always wanted to plan for every possible outcome. Your mother was the one who took risks, who followed her heart. Look what happened to them. They died in an accident, sweetheart. That had nothing to do with their personalities or choices. But while they were alive, they loved completely. They didn't hold back because they were afraid of getting hurt." Helen reached for Amelia's hand. "I know you think you're protecting yourself, but you're not living. You're just surviving again." Gabriel's struggle meanwhile. Gabriel was discovering that honoring Amelia's conditions was more difficult than he had anticipated. Every day, he fought the urge to call her, to find excuses to visit the studio, to break down the walls she had asked him to build. His assistant, Patricia, noticed his distraction during important meetings. His sister Diana, sensing an opportunity, began introducing him to other women at social events. But Gabriel found himself comparing everyone to Amelia, finding them all lacking in her authenticity and passion. The night before the building's grand opening, Gabriel stood in his penthouse, looking out at the city and thinking about the conversation that had started everything. Amelia's dream of creating spaces where people could find dignity and beauty regardless of their income level. He had achieved that goal, but without her to share it, the victory felt empty. The building's grand opening was a massive success. Investors praised the innovative design, future residents toured their new homes with excitement, and art critics raved about the emotional impact of Amelia's paintings. Amelia attended as the commissioned artist, wearing a simple black dress and speaking briefly about her work when interviewed by local reporters. Gabriel gave a presentation about the building's vision, emphasizing how art could create community and connection in urban living. Throughout the evening, they moved in the same circles but maintained careful distance. When Gabriel spoke about the importance of supporting emerging artists, his eyes found Amelia in the crowd. When Amelia discussed her paintings with interested buyers, she was acutely aware of Gabriel's presence across the room. "The artist and the developer make quite a team," observed Margaret Whitfield, the board member who had been most skeptical during Amelia's presentation months earlier. "Perhaps they should collaborate on future projects." Gabriel and Amelia both heard the comment, and for a moment their careful composure cracked. They looked directly at each other across the crowded room, and the longing between them was palpable. The breaking point later that evening. As the event wound down and guests began to leave, Gabriel approached Amelia near her final painting, the couple reaching across the intersection. "Congratulations," he said formally. "The response to your work has been extraordinary."
"Thank you."
"And congratulations on the building. It's everything you envisioned." They stood side by side, looking at the painting that had become a mirror of their own situation. Amelia, Gabriel said quietly, I need to tell you something. Gabriel, we agreed. I know what we agreed. But I can't pretend anymore that this is just business. I love you. Not your art, not your potential, not the project we created together. I love you. Tear felt tears threatening. Gabriel, please don't make this harder than it already is. Doesn't have to be hard. We can find a way to make this work. How? Your sister was right about your pattern. Maybe not about your intentions, but about the result. Every woman you've been involved with has ended up financially dependent on you. I won't be another casualty of your good intentions. Gabriel turned to face her fully. What if I gave it all up? What? The company, the money, the power. What if I walked away from all of it? Would you believe then that I love you for who you are, not as some project to be saved? Amelia stared at him in shock. Gabriel, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. You can't throw away your entire life for me. That's not love, that's obsession. Then what do you want from me, Amelia? How do I prove that what we have is real? Before Amelia could answer, Patricia Wells approached them. Mr. Harrison, there are some investors who'd like to speak with you before they leave. Gabriel looked at Patricia, then back at Amelia. We'll continue this conversation later. But as Amelia watched him walk away to fulfill his obligations, she realized that this moment perfectly illustrated their fundamental problem. Gabriel's world would always make demands on him that hers couldn't compete with, the final choice that night. Amelia sat in her studio, surrounded by her paintings and the tools of her trade. The commission was complete, the payment had been transferred to her account, and her career as an artist was officially launched. She had achieved everything she had dreamed of, but the cost had been higher than she had anticipated. Her phone rang. Gabriel's name appeared on the screen. I meant what I said tonight, he said without preamble when she answered. Gabriel, you can't restructure your entire life around me. That's not healthy for either of us. Then what do you suggest? Amelia had been thinking about this question for weeks. I think we need time. Real time, apart from each other, to figure out who we are individually before we can know if we work together. How much time? I don't know. 6 months? A year? However long it takes for us both to be sure that what we feel is based on who we really are, not on circumstances or need or the thrill of crossing social boundaries. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. And after that time, if we still feel the same way, if we've both grown and changed and still want to be together, then we find a way to make it work as equals. Amelia, I don't want to lose you. Gabriel, if what we have is real, time won't change that. And if it's not real, then we'll have saved ourselves years of making the same mistakes your sister warned me about. The separation the next morning, Amelia received a formal letter from Gabriel's lawyer. The treatment fund for Helen had been established as promised, with no strings attached. The commission payment was confirmed as final, with rights to the work transferred to the building as agreed. A separate document offered Amelia a representation by one of the city's most prestigious galleries, with a recommendation letter from Gabriel that made no mention of their personal relationship. With the letter was a simple note. For your independence and your dreams. Always. G. Amelia cried reading it, recognizing it as both a gift and a goodbye. Gabriel left for an extended business trip to Europe the following week. Diana told mutual acquaintances that he was expanding the company's international operations. But those close to him suspected he was simply putting distance between himself and the memories. Amelia threw herself into her art with renewed intensity. The gallery representation led to a solo show within 6 months, several of her pieces selling to collectors who had seen her work in Gabriel's building. For the first time in her life, she was financially stable through her own talent and effort. Helen's health continued to improve, and she delighted in accompanying Amelia to gallery openings and art events. Your parents would be so proud, she told Amelia repeatedly, and for the first time, Amelia believed it. 1 year later, on a rainy Thursday evening, exactly 1 year after their separation, Amelia was hanging paintings for her second solo show when someone knocked on the gallery door. She looked up to see Gabriel standing outside, holding an umbrella and looking uncertain for the first time since she had known him. She opened the door, her heart racing. Hello, Amelia. Gabriel. You're back. I am. I heard about your show. Patricia told me the reviews have been incredible. They stood in the doorway, rain falling around them, both acutely aware that this moment would determine their future. "Would you like to come in?" Amelia asked. Gabriel stepped into the gallery, shaking off his umbrella. He moved slowly through the space, studying her new work with the same intensity he had brought to their first meeting. The paintings were different from her earlier work, more confident, more complex. Showing an artist who had found her voice, "You've grown," he said finally. "So have you, I think." Gabriel did look different. Leaner, more relaxed, with lines around his eyes that suggested both wisdom and weariness. "I spent the year learning how to be Gabriel instead of Harrison Enterprises," he said. "It was harder than I expected." "What did you discover?" "That I still love you. Not because you need saving, not because you're a project or a challenge, but because you make me want to be better than I am." Amelia felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. "Gabriel, let me finish. I also discovered that I can be happy alone. That I can find meaning in my work without using it to define my worth. And that love should add to your life, not complete it." They stood facing each other in the gallery, surrounded by paintings that told the story of Amelia's journey toward independence and self-discovery. "I've been thinking about you every day," Amelia admitted, "wondering if we threw away something real because we were afraid, or if we needed to throw it away temporarily to find something better." Gabriel stepped closer to her. Amelia rose. "Would you like to start over? Not as CEO and struggling artist, not as savior and saved, but as two people who've learned how to love themselves enough to love each other properly." Amelia looked into his eyes and saw not the confident businessman who had first approached her table, but a man who had learned vulnerability, who had chosen growth over comfort, who was offering partnership instead of rescue. "I'd like that very much," she said. This time, when Gabriel kissed her, it felt like a beginning rather than a continuation. They had found their way back to each other not because circumstances demanded it, but because they had chosen each other freely. With full knowledge of the costs and complications, outside the rain continued to fall on the city, washing away the old patterns and making space for something new to grow. 6 months later, Gabriel and Amelia announced their engagement at the opening of their joint project, a community arts center in Helen's neighborhood. Funded by Gabriel's company, but designed and operated by Amelia's nonprofit foundation. It was the first of many collaborations between equals. Built on love that had survived testing and emerged stronger, Helen Rose, now healthy and vibrant, danced at their wedding the following spring. Delighted to see her granddaughter finally living the kind of love story worthy of her talent and her heart.